Hi, hello. Um, Today, I wanted to introduce the lightweight Kubernetes, which is from Rancher. It's called K3S. So I'm going to install K3S to work with Cilium and also BigIP. So this is a diagram, which may look familiar if you watched my previous video. And so in this diagram, I have a BigIP here as a load balancer to load balance traffic through the Cilium tunnel to the pod. So this pod is in a K3S cluster. So K3S is the lightweight Kubernetes. In my previous video, I run a standard Kubernetes cluster, but this time I run the K3S, which is very lightweight and easy to set up, and just one single binary to run a Kubernetes-like cluster. So also I run the Cilium as the network CNI plugin instead of a Flannel. So by default, the K3S use Flannel as CNI network plugin, but instead of using Flannel, here I use Cilium, which is to use the BPF networking technology. So here is the diagram, and also there is I use the Cilium BPF tunnel update command to configure the Cilium tunnel map to communicate with the BigIP VXLAN device. And previously, I used the BPF tool to update the Cilium BPF tunnel map, which is kind of hikey. And yeah, I can show you. So here, previously, I used the BPF tool. Like in this script, I used the BPF tool map update to update the BPF tunnel map. Like I have to use the key and vinyl with a hex representation. So here, like 0001 here, and that's kind of ugly. So, and but now I use the instead. Now I use the BPF tunnel update command. Here I use the update the Cilium BPF tunnel update command to update the BPF tunnel instead of the BPF tool. So this is more user friendly, and this is a patch for Cilium I wrote. It's not upstream yet. It's in my local development branch. Okay, so that's a little update here. And So I'm going to set up this. I still use the CIS, which is the container ingress services. It's a pod to manage the BigIP and the Kubernetes ingress and config map resources to use the config map or ingress to configure BigIP virtual server. So I'm going to run this deployment setup just in one bash script here. So I have a repository here, like in my GitHub Vincent MLI/docs repository. And under this docs repository, I have a Cilium K3S BigIP directory. So under this directory, there is an installation file you can read. And so basically, step one is set up the Flino VXLAN tunnel in BigIP. And step two is run the K3S-Cilium.sh bash file. And that's the bash script usage here. And yeah, so just to run this one bash script, it will download the K3S and start K3S services, and that's step one. Step two is deploy the Cilium. And yeah, so let's go to let's look at the actual installation script. K3S, this is a file, K3S Cilium.sh. So so here's the step one, install K3S. So basically, it runs the curl to download the K3S installation bash script. Then run the bash script locally with this parameter, with this argument. So this is disable the traffic. So the K3S has a load balancer, default load balancer called traffic. And since we are using BigIP here, we don't use traffic. So this is to disable the traffic. And also we're not using Flino. So we set the Flino backend to long. And so there's no Flino. And also we specify a node IP address. Okay. So for example, here, this is a virtual machine. I'm going to install the K3S. And I have a two network interface, but I'm going to use this network interface with this IP address as the load IP. So the K3S will use this network interface and use this as a load IP. So this is where on your virtual machine, you specify your node IP. And yeah, so this script will download the K3S and run the K3S. Okay. So step two, once the K3S cluster is up, step two is deploy the Cilium. So before I deploy the Cilium, I have a Cilium. Template YAML file. So in this template YAML file, I needed to change the devices setting to use the network interface that has the node IP address. So in this case, it's this is the network interface. I'm going to put in the Cilium YAML template file. Okay. So you use set to replace the template with the network interface, and also use the node IP as the K3S API server IP here. Okay, so create a new YAML file. Then we can deploy the Cilium with this new YAML file. So that's step 2. And so this is a while loop here, but we just wait for the Cilium agent to come up, the Cilium agent pod to come up. If it is up, then we populate the Cilium BPF Tunnel Map with this input, this bash script input here. And so the BPF Tunnel Map automatically has the BigIP final VXLAN configuration. And in step 3, we deploy the CIS, which is to manage BigIP configuration and to populate the ingress or config map. So that's it, just basically 3 steps. So now we can run this script, and this is my BigIP already set up. So this is my BigIP. Okay, I already have the set the final VXLAN panel self-IP setup. That's the subnet I'm going to use on the BigIP. This is a VLAN self-IP. And this is a tunnel. Final VXLAN tunnel. And notice here, I use the key. I use the key 2. This is recommended for Cilium VXLAN tunnel. And also in the final VXLAN profile, we use the flooding type multi-point, which is to dynamically resolve the pod ARP address. Okay, so we set up the BigIP already, and I already cloned the docs repo here, and this is the same Cilium K3S BigIP directory. And here again, we can show you the BigIP. That's to create the final VXLAN with the VXLAN port and the flooding type multi-point, and use the key 2 and then the local VLAN self-IP. So this is a subnet, a BigIP tunnel to use. Okay, so pretty simple. We already done that. So now let's run this K3S Cilium.sh bash script to set up the K3S and Cilium. Let's give a -H help. So here is a simple usage. -A is we specify which node IP address to use on this virtual machine. And the -S is the BigIP tunnel subnet. And the -I is the BigIP VLAN self-IP address. And then -M is a final VXLAN interface MAC address on the BigIP. And the -V is a VNI venue we wanted to use. Okay, so let's run the script. K3S Cilium message dash n. Okay. So this is a script with argument I'm going to run. So this is a node IP I'm going to use. This is a tunnel subnet on the BigIP. Now this is the VLAN, BigIP VLAN self-IP. This is the final VXLAN interface MAC address. So we can show you, I can show you here. So this is a final VXLAN interface on the BigIP. Once you set up the final VXLAN tunnel, so that's the MAC address. And then here -M, we give the same MAC address. So once I enter, this script will run and do everything for us. Let's just enter. So here is step 1, install K3S. And the interface we are going to use for Cilium is ENS 192, which is matched to this node IP address. So this is a K3S bash script downloaded from the K3S website. So once it's downloaded, we run it locally to set up the K3S. So it will create a systemd startup file and start up the K3S services. So now K3S is up. And now we deploy the Cilium step 2. So this is we are in the loop to check if the Cilium agent is up. So now it's up. And then after it's up, we update the Cilium BPF Tunnel Map with the bash script input here, like the BigIP tunnel subnet. That's the tunnel key value, and the tunnel map value with this is a BigIP self-IP, VLAN self-IP. That's the final VXLAN interface MAC address, and this is a VNI value 2. So it's automatically updating. Now step 3, we deploy the CIS. And just wait for the CIS pod to be up. Again, this is a diagram, CIS, Cilium, K3S. Okay, so everything is up. And so this is our Cilium agent, runs on the K3S node. This is the CIS, BigIP CIS pod to manage BigIP and the K3S resources. So this is my app pod, F5 Hello World 2 pod I just deployed. And so I also deployed the config map already. So on the BigIP, if we go to the virtual server configuration, we should have a new partition called AS3. So this is the virtual server configured by the CIS. If we look at the pools, we look at the members, that should be the F5 Hello World pod. from the K3S and also managed by the Cilium agent. And here 86, 158, the pod IP address. And let's check here, 158, 86. That's the 200 world pod. So, and it's green, right? So it's green, and it works. And we can also just do a simple ping here from the BigIP to the pod. And it works, right? It should work. Just give one ping, and we got a reply here, right? We can also just curve the pod from the BigIP, and oh, wrong IP address, 158. So we get the actual NGX F500 world NGX pod web page. Okay, so yeah, and so this is again, if you you can set up this also easily. Just set up the BigIP as usual, and then run this bash script. Run this bash script on your virtual machine. You should have K3S and Cilium set up, and you can just try it. And yeah, thank you for watching.